6:42 and 41 seconds right here on the Nice. You are in tune with Nice Radio, and you know at this time what happens. Yes. It's time for our commentary. Time for us to give you a different take on something that you might be aware of. However, today is a time for me to give you a little bit more information, yes. So listen up. Today, our topic is of emergency planning and evacuations. Of emergency planning and evacuations. A friend of mine inquired of me last week to find out how the National Emergency Management Organization, such as NEMO, how do they intend to notify residents of those areas found within specifically the red and orange zones based on the volcanology, the volcanoes' danger zones. How do they intend to notify these residents of an impending eruption, or to ensure that they are aware an eruption is in progress and that they need to evacuate those areas for their safety? Okay, before we go any further, today is not the day for me to deal with the logistics part of it. That I will deal with another time. I mean the logistics of how do you move and safely house 15,000 plus persons in a very short space of time. Should a mass evacuation be required? And yes, before you ask why a mass evacuation would not be the only option, well, volcanoes act in many different ways, and therefore, different scenarios can be applied depending on the type and the nature of an eruption. So, right now we have an effusive eruption. A dome is building. You don't need, at this point in time, an evacuation. Look at, say, the detail on the issue of another time, and we will go back and talk about that, okay? The issue of notifying residents in the danger zone is what I want to look at today. So, okay, years ago, and believe me, much of it is still being published in our Gazette annually as the standard practice. When a hurricane or tropical storm is approaching, there were certain protocols, actions to be taken to notify residents, and this applies to other emergencies as well. The funny thing is, I don't even show if any of them have been used, those protocols, within the last 50 years, and how to back up to the now back to the program that we're dealing with. So, for example, the ringing of church bells, the blasting of sirens, and the flying of the hurricane flag above police stations and other buildings. Oh, yeah, and they also say megaphone and loudspeakers. These were all methods that have been listed. Like I say, I don't show, but up to a few years back, these were there in the gazettes every year published during the hurricane season. I don't think they change. And I should also note again that nobody really uses them or know about them. So let me look at a few of these. Most of the churches these days don't have bells. First problem. That was the days when the Catholic, Anglican, and Methodist Church was the big thing in the community, right? Yes, the spiritual Baptists have plenty bell, but that is not the type of bell we're talking about, okay? We're talking about the big bells that does dip on church. And you understand now. So if you're quite down the road, you might hear them ringing, but that was long ago. You see where the noise coming from them minivans and the boom boxes everybody carrying about in their hand these days. Plus, everybody have headphone plug in. Church bell could ring from now to December. Ain't nobody hearing. And what's yet? Nobody going to think it's anything special. Maybe some funeral or a wedding that they believe happening, or some mischievous picnic who go on and ring the people them church bell. Then the same thing can almost be applied for them loudspeakers. Well, actually, I wonder if we can still call them loudspeakers. You see, because the little Bluetooth things the school picnic them just carry about these days in the hand have more volume than them loudspeakers. So again, nobody going to either pay them any mind. Well, if it's not election season, especially with all the other noises around. Well, don't talk about flag. You ever see anybody walking with the head held up high enough to notice anything upon any building, far less flag upon police station? And besides, this only could work in broad daylight. If it's nighttime, as soon as things get dark, then that don't make no sense. So you say we have modern technology and we're going to send blasts on people's phone. Look, the way them phone companies going these days, like when you need internet and connectivity to do online classes like no, that school suspended. And you can't even get a 40-minute class done in a day because the internet dropping out and buffering every 15 seconds. Depending on that might be a problem as well. And worse yet, since people know all the phone company them sending out them humbug up message about sale here and special day, come to this event, and money tight, wrong this time of the year, January, February, from the time they see Slow or Biggie, them throwing the phone down in a corner and shups in the teeth, them again, only blocking up your inbox with all them dotis messages there. And now you could see, if you wanted to send out an urgent message to tell people that they need to evacuate, that might also be a problem if you're using the phone. Okay, so you say they have radio and they have TV. Granted, not everybody have TV, but them who could afford cable, not wasting time on certain channel cause cable so expensive, they have to maximize on the few movies they get in for the month. And you see the radio thing? That is only for certain times of the day. Early morning commence one way. A bit of nice commentary like now, the next way. Some music here and there, and they have some, from the time they hear certain people come on, they turn the radio off. Now again, I say in all this to point out, if we have an emergency situation and we need to send urgent messages to people living in the danger zones them for the souffre, we're going to need to find the best way to alert as much people as quickly as possible. Look, it's a whole different ball game if the souffre starter belt rung 2 o'clock in the morning without any warning. I know my friends them go say, my friends them by Nemo go be having village consultations now to inform the people and to tell them what to do if such a situation arises. But all you could imagine, with 2 minivan and a school bus between Fancy and Oya and maybe 25 cars, what kind of nightmare in store to get 1,500 people in them 2 villages there alone out to safety? Look, we ain't talking about Sandy Bay, Overland, Turuma, Orange Hill, and the rest villages above the Dry River. And remember, it's special priority to get them over the river as soon as possible. Yes, I know the river now have bridge, but that is just one little part of the problem. All you see why I say I'm going to have to deal with this logistics thing in a whole nother commentary, right? Okay. And imagine, we ain't reached Georgetown. Not to talk about them fellas who farming up in the hills either. I'm talking about farming in the hills. You know, there's a whole nother story to it, but we can leave that for another time. Oh, and my friends and people them on the leeward side. No, I ain't forget about all, you know. There's another whole commentary as well. So you see, people, all you need to pay attention to Nebo when they're telling you that you must make sure and deal with this emergency. Have your emergency backpack and rest it down near the door. Look, if things get real bad and the bag getting in the way, forget about the backpack and make sure that your family and them safe first. And with that, you know, I go on for another day. Stay tuned.